Live shot from the Century Plaza Hotel and Spa on Burrard Street. Being a caregiver for an ailing loved one, it can be exhausting, it can be expensive, and our guests this morning are going to tell us about some support systems that are in place for caregivers across our country. Welcome back, Dr. Lu.
Thank you.
And Ruby, a caregiver whose story we're about to hear. But can we start, Dr. Lu, with kind of setting the scene here? How many caregivers are there across Canada?
There are over 8 million caregivers in Canada. That's about 28% of the population. And when I talk about caregivers, I'm talking about people who care for family and friends with chronic illness, disability, and aging needs. So these are not paid caregivers like nurses, doctors, and home care workers. These are people caring for their family members, like a mother caring for a daughter or a sister caring for a brother. And if you look at the work that these unpaid caregivers do, and if we were to replace all the unpaid caregivers, their work would be valued at about $25 billion each year.
Wow, that's jaw-dropping.
It's quite a lot of money, and it shows how important unpaid caregivers are to our healthcare system.
They sure are, and you're the host of a new web series called House Calls.
Yes.
From your experience in hosting this web series, what's the #1 challenge that caregivers are facing?
There are a few challenges. One of the biggest challenges is self-care. So caregivers often don't remember to take care of themselves. Another challenge is that they don't self-identify as caregivers. So often they just see it as taking care of their mother.
Family life.
Exactly. It's just part of being a family member. But when you self-identify as a caregiver, what happens is that you can access resources that are available to you. And if you don't access these resources by not self-identifying, it can increase the negative impacts of caregiving, like social isolation, financial stress. 31% of caregivers in BC reported that they were in distress, and between 20 and 40% of caregivers in Canada report depression. So our show House Call is about helping caregivers find practical solutions, and 4 of our episodes are about self-care.
Ruby, thank you so much for joining us on BT and sharing
pleasure.
such an intimate part of your personal life. Can you tell us about who you take care of?
Well, actually, my caregiving goes a long way back from year 1990 when my husband initially got sick, who was young. He had cancer, kidney failure, and so after him, unfortunately, he passed in 2005. And then my mother-in-law, she ended up with cancer, so I took care of her, and she passed in 2006. And then my mother, and then my dad, and now at present it's my father-in-law, who is 92 years old, and which initially I'm his full-time caregiver.
So we're learning so much about the struggles that caregivers face and the challenges,
Yes.
but what about the positive side? What kinds of things have you gained on that more positive side of things?
In my opinion, or I should say, is the positive side is like you feel coming from a traditional family is you feel good within yourself that you're able to take care of the loved ones, and you're there for them, and you're not always not knowing, how they will be taken care by any other home support workers.
Taking matters into your own hands.
And making the decisions and making sure. And they, at the same time, they feel secure too, that, the family is there for them and they're not kind of left alone in somebody's hand.
Let's talk just really briefly before we wrap up, Dr. Lu, about some of the support services that are available for caregivers through the website, Stories for Caregivers.
So we're hoping that people will go to the website and watch these inspiring stories about caregivers. In addition to our show, there are 2 other web series, and get some of the practical solutions that we talk about in our show. There's also a section called the Inspiration section where people can go online and post their experiences. We're hoping that this will build a caregiving community where people can share resources and access resources.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Television. All the information, the website was popping up there on your screen. And if this was a powerful message for you or someone in your life that's a caregiver, this will be up at btvancouver.ca after the show. Breakfast Television continues.